Hello, good to be back with you. Doing a video right now as a response to a question I had and a request to do a video from one of my favorite subscribers, old Nanny Granny, who's one of my favorites because she subscribes to my videos, she watches my videos, comments on my videos, and always asks some pretty thought-provoking questions. And she's proposed some fairly complex and difficult questions in this particular comment that she left for me, but I did want to respond the best I can. First of all, to your point, old Nanny Granny, I can sense the frustration, and I'm feeling that same frustration as many other people are, because Trump ran on this agenda, and you make a very good point that he's the president, he's a Republican, he's got a Republican House, a Republican Senate. Seems like we should just be able to get his agenda through. But it's very frustrating to watch the fact that he's being embattled on everything he tries to do. It is frustrating, but I would just suggest to you that it's only been 100 days, and he's got 4 years, and we have to maybe just be a little more patient. But I do sense your frustration, and you do ask some very valid questions. I'm going to do my best to address them infinitum as we go down through them. So your first question, how can Trump have the House, the Senate, and not be able to accomplish his plans? Well, that's because if you remember when he ran in the campaign, he had the whole anti-Trump movement. There's a lot of people who are Republicans who are in both houses of Congress. They're Republicans, but they're opposed to Donald Trump and his agenda, and for many different reasons. Every politician, obviously, the most important thing to them, first of all, is their own personal interest, their political interest, and the interest of the party which keeps them in power. They are backed by a lot of big money and special interest, and that is who they serve, themselves and their special interest. That's who they really serve. As far as serving the president, as far as they're concerned, well, you know, this guy will be here for 4 years and he'll be gone. They're more concerned with their own particular agenda and satisfying the needs of the people that bankroll them. Because if they don't, the people who bankroll them will simply pull the funding for them, and in the next election they'll get primaried by an establishment person who will make them have to actually go out and work for a living. So this is why Trump has people fighting him, because they're not on board with his agenda. They're not on the team. They never were. Many of them are, you know, not very happy he won. So, yes, Trump is running into a lot of problems because he's got a lot of people in his party in both the House and the Senate that are opposed to him personally, don't like him, and are opposed to the policies. And in particular, I think what we're dealing with now that you're talking about is this wall. And the wall, of course, is part of the budget. So what they're doing is that they're fighting him and saying, hey, you got to take the wall out of this thing and we can get the budget done. And if you want to include the wall, it's not going to get done. So they're playing hardball with him. And a lot of these people don't want the wall. We saw these same Republicans fight the wall when Bush was president. And the fact is, the reason that the wall is so tough to get done, we've been talking about it for 20, 25 years, is because neither the establishment Republicans or Democrats want the wall. Because establishment Republicans, who are backed by very powerful special interest, and the most powerful one is the Chamber of Commerce. They are one of the most powerful Republican lobbies that there are. They are 100% opposed to the wall, and they carry a lot of weight. And they have a lot to say about where the money is directed when it comes time for an election, as well as the Speaker of the House has that same power. The Democrats don't want a wall because those people that come across the border, 90% of the time, they register as Democrats. So nobody wants the wall, except for a lot of people who supported Donald Trump, his constituents. But as far as the politicians, they don't want the wall. And that is why he's having so many problems getting that done. But you know, it's not just the wall and the budget. They battling him on other things as well. But he doesn't come from the establishment. He comes from the business community, and Washington is having a bit of culture shock, and they are fighting him, and they are going to continue to fight him every step of the way. The best thing that we can do is identify who the people are who are fighting Trump, and contact their offices, call them, send them emails, and give them hell, and tell them to get on board the Trump train, or else you're going to primary them. And then if they continue to try to sabotage his agenda, do everything you can when 2018 comes around to primary these Republicans who are rhinos, who are not on the Trump train. If you don't like what they're doing, get behind someone who will get behind Trump. I'm sure you'll have other candidates running in your districts where these Republicans are obstructing Donald Trump's agenda. Primary them, beat them. It's not easy to do, but you know, if people join together and get busy, they can be defeated. So that is the solution to that problem. Get rid of these people who are trying to obstruct Trump from accomplishing his agenda. It is frustrating, though. You asked the question, old Nanny Granny asked, does Ryan have more power than Trump? No, he doesn't have more power than Trump, but he does have a lot of power. Remember, he's the Speaker of the House. So the Speaker controls what agenda items are taken up and in what order. He also is the person who organizes everything and puts using his whip, which is the person who works under him, is the guy who goes out and finds the consensus to get the things done that they want to do. Now remember, the agenda of Paul Ryan, who is an establishment hack, and the other establishment hacks in the Republican Party, especially those opposed to Trump, they have their own agenda. It's not Trump's agenda. It's an agenda that's opposed to Trump for the most part. There are some things they agree on, but for the most part, there's a lot of things they don't agree on. And again, you have the Chamber of Commerce putting a lot of pressure on Ryan, a lot of special interest putting the pressure on Ryan and others who are establishment Republicans, doing everything they can to make sure they obstruct Trump, particularly on the wall. And because it's part of the budget, they're obstructing him there. So Ryan, and keep in mind, there's something else that the Speaker of the House does. He also decides where the money goes. When it comes election time, he decides what amounts of money get distributed to what voting district and what elections, and who that money gets distributed to. So, if you don't get on Paul Ryan's train, and you're a Republican, and you oppose Ryan and support Trump, when it comes time for you to get reelected, they can primary you. They can withhold funds from you. They can take the money they would normally give you and give it to someone else to beat you. So, yeah, the Speaker of the House does have, we have 3 equal branches of government, and he's right now the head of one of those 3 branches. And he is opposed to Donald Trump on quite a few things. Paul Ryan is not our friend. Paul Ryan is a neocon. Paul Ryan is a globalist. Paul Ryan is an establishment hack. And the only thing we can do is put a lot of pressure on him, and hopefully, if he becomes too unpopular, he can be kicked out as Speaker. And maybe we can get a Speaker who does support Donald Trump's agenda. This is the best that you can do. Again, it's a difficult situation in Washington, D.C. It's not like before where Trump was the CEO of a corporation, a large corporation. He was a decision maker. He could bring in people and get their opinion, but ultimately, he made the decision, and once he made the decision, that's what happens. It doesn't work that way in Washington. In Washington, you have to build consensus. You have to deal, wheel and deal. Now, he's a good wheeler and dealer, but you have to be careful when you're wheeling and dealing not to give the store away. And you also have to remember that when you give up things, if you get a reputation as being someone who will give up things too easily, the establishment will run roughshod over you. And that's why I suggested in my previous video that Trump stand his ground on the wall and in his budget. Let's see. You ask, are the citizens able to put together a fund and fund the wall themselves? Certainly. They could. They could put together some sort of a GoFundMe for the wall, or various Tea Party organizations or grassroots organizations could get together and take up donations and say, hey, we'll pay for the wall with our donations. But I'm not a big fan of this idea. I mean, you can certainly do it, but hey, they take enough of our tax dollars to build the wall. The issue is not the money. It's where that money goes. If they want to build the wall for all the billions and billions of dollars that we spend on all the other things that we do, the wall would actually be something good to do. It would protect our borders. And that would do a lot of good for the country. So, yes, theoretically, yes, you could raise a lot of money through activist groups and say, yes, we want to do it. And then the Congress wouldn't really have much to say. They go, well, if the people are willing to bankroll the wall themselves, I guess we have to do it. It is certainly it's an interesting and a creative idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. My issue with it is that they take enough of our money as it is, and they have the money to build the wall. The money is not the issue. The issue is whether they have the stomach, the political courage to do it. And there is a way to get it done, believe me. Will Democrats pay the price for blocking it? Yeah, and so will the Republicans. You bring up a very good point, old Nanny Granny. Yes, there are Democrats. And remember, Donald Trump won 4 blue states. There are Democrats, particularly in the Rust Belt, who've seen their wages fall, and they know it's because of the massive amount of illegals coming across the border. By putting a border wall there, in time you will begin to see wages rise. And so there are Democrats, populist types, independents, who supported Trump, who voted for Trump in these blue states, where Democrats really have to win if they want to win elections. The Democrats can't win national elections without winning Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. They have to win those 3 states to win national elections, at least the way the electoral map stands now. Maybe 20 years from now, that'll change. You know, Texas used to be a blue state, and California used to be a red state. So the electoral map changes over time, but for the next 2 to 3 election cycles, those states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, they are states that the Democrats have to pay attention to. If you are a Democrat in a district that voted for Trump, yeah, you certainly do have to be concerned about losing your seat. But again, you have the Democrats have made a decision after Trump was elected that they were going to play obstruction on every single thing he tried to do. And they're counting on putting Trump in a situation where he's seen as a failed president and hoping that this never comes back to bite him. These Democrats also have powerful people in the Democratic Party, powerful lobbies who are leaning on them, forcing them to take the position they are taking. It's a risky move. It's a roll of the dice, and it certainly could come back to bite them in the butt. You certainly could see some of these Democrats upset and lose their elections in their districts because they're opposing the wall or fighting Trump on the budget. Absolutely, positively, very good point, and that just may happen. And in fact, I expect it will happen. I expect in 2018 you will see some of these Democrats who are in blue states, formerly blue states that went red, or in voting districts that were formerly blue districts that went red, that voted for Trump. And yes, these people will be facing a tough re-election, and some of them I expect will lose. There will be a price to pay, for sure, for blocking Trump on this particular item that may be popular with a lot of Democrats in these areas. And there will also be Republicans who are opposing the wall, and they too may face a difficult re-election. So yeah, there is a price to pay when you go against something that the president wants to do and people realize that you're blocking it. Now, a lot of these politicians are pretty arrogant. They think they're slick enough to spin, and they think that they can pull enough of a coalition together that they can hold on to their seat, maybe narrowly, but it's a risk that they take. And I'm sure that there are Democrats who know that by taking the position they're taking, that they're putting themselves in for some jeopardy. But going against the power establishment of your own party sometimes is 100% a death knell. So, you know, a lot of times these people have 2 choices, neither of them good. And that's true for a lot of these Democrats. But in general, to your question, Nanny Granny, yeah, I'm frustrated just like you. A lot of people are, but it's only 100 days or less into his presidency. He still has time. Still have to drain the swamp. We're still going to have a midterm election, and in that midterm election, if he can pick up some more Republicans, if we can exchange some bad Republicans who don't support him for some good Republicans who do, that will help. I'm sure he'll be working on that. I'm sure he'll be campaigning against people who are working against him, and so we'll see how that plays out in 2018. But on this specific issue that we're dealing with now, with the budget and the wall being part of that budget, and the wall being the primary issue that's obstructing the budget moving forward, as I said in a previous video, I think Donald Trump should allow the government shutdown. I think that there is a way to use that to your advantage, to put pressure on these Republicans and Democrats in these states that were formerly blue states that went red. So if you play your cards right, and you have to be a pretty slick player. Bill Clinton did a masterful job against the Republicans and Newt Gingrich when he did this government shutdown, and he executed it brilliantly. Now, I think he had the help of Dick Morris in that. Now, as I suggested in a previous video, Dick Morris is still out there. He does political commentary. He does videos a lot. I'm subscribed to his site, and I think that maybe Donald Trump should give Dick Morris a call. He's kind of a slimy character, but the man's a brilliant political strategist. And he's the one, I think, who was behind the strategy Bill Clinton used to really use the government shutdown in his favor. If I were Donald Trump, I would certainly play that card. I would not give up on the wall, and at some point you have to play hardball with these people. And that includes sometimes members of your own party. Having said that, there is one other way to do this. As we just saw, to get the Gorsuch Supreme Court seat filled, they used the nuclear option. They waived the filibuster rule. Now, you can waive the filibuster rule in the Senate, not just for getting Supreme Court justices nominated, but for anything you want, really. It does require 60 votes to get the budget and to get the wall in the budget. But hey, they could enact the filibuster nuclear option and kill the filibuster and get it done with 50 votes, 51 votes. Now they probably have 51 votes to get the wall. So it's possible that they could use the same nuclear option that they used, and they could use that not just for, as they did with Gorsuch, they could use it to get the budget done. They could use it to get anything they wanted done, really. But it is a two-edged sword, because someday the Democrats will be back in power, and you better guarantee that if the Republicans just completely waive the filibuster rule and use the nuclear option to pass everything they want through the Senate, including the health care and everything else, you can better believe that the Democrats will do the exact same thing. So it's a two-edged sword. Personally, I would rather use the government shutdown option, but if that option is not one that they want to risk, then I certainly would, if I were Donald Trump and the Republicans, I would use the nuclear option, the filibuster rule, and I would get the budget and the wall done that way, and everything else. And just do it. Go for it. Go big or stay at home. What's the worst that can happen? You know, you get back to status quo. You really don't have much to lose. Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on McConnell. It puts a lot of pressure on Republicans. You have people like Lindsey Graham and John McCain that will fight it, but you know, they got 52 seats and they got the vice president. You know, they can afford to lose Graham and McCain if they can keep everyone else in line. And again, has a lot to do with how much pressure the voters can bring. I mean, we do have telephones, we do have emails, we do have the ability to send a letter. It is possible to bring a lot of pressure, and that's what I think that ought to be happening right now. Is we should be bringing pressure. If you get a chance, send an email to your congressman, especially if he's fighting this deal. Send an email to Brian, let him know that you want the wall and you want him to support the wall in the budget. And you know, you can call Trump as well and let him know that you support him and you want him to stand firm and not cave in on the wall. So yeah, there's always a place in the process for political activism at the grassroots level, and you have to use every tool at your disposal. And the reason why I don't, normally I wouldn't go for the filibuster rule, I generally wouldn't support it, but we are now in a unique situation in political history. We have a party that has decided that they're going to obstruct every single thing the president does. They are essentially using a nuclear option. So when you're faced with that, I think it's not unreasonable to use to fight back with the same degree of ferocity and to use a nuclear option right back on them, which is to waive the filibuster rule on every damn thing you want to do. If that's what it takes, do it. The worst thing you can do is capitulate, cave in, and give up what you really want, because they will never quit trying to stop you from doing it, and they'll only use it against you in your re-election. So hopefully, old Nanny Granny, that answers some of your questions. And I appreciate you subscribing to my channel, leaving comments, thought-provoking comments that you always do. And I appreciate having you around, and look forward to having more interaction with you in the future. Thank you. You all take care. Bye.